Greetings. I may or may not be Lon Knappenberger. Suspenseful introduction. I am a consultant on two overlapping grants. The first is an NSF iTest grant called the Western New York Research and Genomics Partnership. Genetics and Research Partnership grant. See, there's my name. See it? The other one is an NIH SEPA grant called the Western New York Genetics and Research and Healthcare Partnership. See, there's my name again. This has not been photoshopped in any way. The purpose of this grant is to introduce teachers and their students to biotechnology, bioinformatics, and the biomedical sciences by annotating a gene from this cute little fella right here. Over the course of a semester, they take a lab notebook of roughly 20 pages full of empty text boxes, and they turn it into a 40-page lab notebook full of information about his or her genes. Because the because the teachers are being paid by an outside grant, a lot of time this has to take place out of the normal school day. I've had 126 students complete this, producing over 70 research posters. Part of my job as a consultant is to answer questions from teachers trying this with their students for the very first time. Most of the time, the questions are about interpreting graphs or data sent back by the various websites. For example, this is a website called PSORT-B, and it shows that the gene product is cytoplasmic. Wow. Then the student does a Phoebus graph, and then up at the top it says non-cytoplasmic, and then I get an email from the teachers. Why is this conflicting? I have to remind them that Phoebus is very good at predicting transmembrane helices and signal peptides, but not very good at predicting gene product location. Whew. Also, the students have to comment on a Phoebus graph, and they don't know how to get the students started. So I tell them that a Phoebus graph shows the position of conserved amino acids in their organisms and in organisms related by descent called orthologs. That those one-letter codes stand for amino acids, and the larger that one-letter code is, the more that amino acid is conserved in that location. Simple stuff like that. So on February 1st, 2017, at about 3:15 p.m., I received this email forwarded to me by the group that somebody asked them, how do you get students to do what they don't want to do? I instantly spiraled into what I like to call the 7 stages of answering a serious email. Stage 1 is shock and flattery. Doop. I get ahead of this clicker every day. I have taught over 100 students how to do this. Students with extensive IEPs, students with terrible attendance. I even got an emancipated minor that got herself up into school, complete this entire project. I've been a stinking science teacher for 22 years. I've been a track coach for 17 years. I've coached soccer for 9 years and never changed my outfit once. I've even got my athletes to do what they didn't think that they could do. We went undefeated in boys track and field in 2012, and we also forfeited pole vaulting, and we train on a cinder track. This was my very first classroom. I taught parental investment to a group of college students in the rainforest of Mexico. It had 2 walls, a ceiling, and a single light bulb. That's it. Everything else has been golden since then. I taught comparative primate anatomy, that's scary, for 2 years at the University of Buffalo. This is my other claim to fame. I'm the author of the longest document on grivet monkeys in the world. Isn't that impressive? And for heaven's sakes, I'm a New York State master teacher. Well, this lasted for about 2 minutes. Then I entered my next stage, which is crippling self-doubt. Who am I to answer this? I had a student that day that wouldn't lift her head off the table. I have 2 8th graders that are going to fail Science 8, and I don't know how to save them. I started to think maybe my master teacher application got put into the wrong pile. That the fire alarm went off 4 minutes into my 10-minute presentation, and maybe they just felt sorry for me and let me in. That's got to be it. Then stage 3, return to rational. I can do this. I can do this. The team is counting on me. The future of the biomedical corridor of Western New York is counting on me. Where's my growth mindset? Help me, Carol Dweck. You're my only hope. Angela Duckworth, give me grit. Sir John Hattie, make my learning visible. Sir Ken Robinson, make me creative. So what I did next was an act of incredible bravery. I sat down at my trusty iMac and I typed out, greetings. I will be happy to give you an answer to your question. Please give me 24 hours to organize my thoughts. Then I wandered home from school, said a brief hi to my kids, fed my pets, ate dinner, did normal people things. And then at about 7 o'clock, I sat down on my computer again. And I started to type, and everything that came out on my keyboard was sarcasm. Even though sarcasm is incredibly entertaining, it is not very helpful, and I knew that this woman wanted real answers. So I decided I would purge the sarcasm. I typed out, greetings. I have been thinking about your question, how to get students to do what they do not want to do. And here are my suggestions. Hypnotism. Kidnap a family pet. Offer them gold and silver. Jedi mind tricks. Withhold sleep. Stare into the very soul until they get in. Get down on your knees and beg. Bring back the mosquito ringtone and keep playing it and playing it and playing it until they give in. Insert cybernetic implants. Open a portal to the multiverse. Reach in, grab an alternative version of your student and pull it into this dimension. And much, much, too much more. Good. Cleansing. Now I hit delete, delete, delete. I've also, oh, by the way, you may have noticed that there's 2-stage force, okay? Nothing in the world has 8 stages. So I have 2-stage force. Just go with me. I've learned in my 20-plus years of teaching that if you do not want to say, just keep throwing out buzzwords. Some genius at sciencejargon.net ScienceGeek.net has created the jargon generator. And so I opened it up in a new tab, and I hit generate jargon, and this came out. Convince your student this is an example of undefined assessment jargon. No, I hit it again. This lesson is streamlined objective order, higher order to think through the class. No, that doesn't sound right either. Try to implement efficient proficiencies across cognitive and affective domains. No. How about I do this one, I just put gene annotation in it. Gene annotation triangulates college and career-ready decision-making through the exploration of big ideas. To be honest, this really doesn't sound like me. I decided this doesn't sound like me, and this person is looking for real help. They're looking for a real answer. So I had no choice but to look up in anguish. And when I looked up in anguish, I saw this on my ceiling. And this is part of super productive in the wrong direction. My roof is leaking. I need to go up in the attic and check this out. So it looks like just my roof cap during a heavy rain let some rain in. I need to go down the basement, I need to find some kills, and I need to treat this right now, which I did. Okay? Then I sat down at my computer again. There it is. Then I looked down at my feet and saw this. And I thought to myself, this has got to be a fire hazard, first of all. Second of all, if someone is walking under my desk, they are going to trip. So I decided to straighten it out. In the course of straightening out, I found this blue wire running down through the floor. And I traced it, and my son had run his own Ethernet cable down to his room. Danas, just drilled through the floor. After about 90 minutes of untangling things, zip ties, tracing wires, I was ready to start again. Then I thought, I wonder if I have any more emails that need answering. So I opened my school email account, 1,093. I thought, I better thin this herd before I tackle this one. So about 90 minutes later, I was rated again. Okay, bargaining. Stage 6. Brain, if you do this, I will let you go into neutral and watch some TV. And if you're lucky, I'll give you some caffeine. So I tried it, and it didn't work. So I moved on to my next step was, maybe if there's other websites that create writing prompts. Maybe if I just create a writing prompt, that'll get me started, I'll just write this reply. So I opened it, I hit it. The kiss reminded him of a chemistry lesson in school. I thought, science reference, I like it. When if the two elements are put together, they'd explode. This really doesn't sound appropriate to my problem. So I had no choice but to hit generate a new sentence. The frying stopped, the twin windows opened to reveal, no. He hadn't seen anything like this in his 20 years of teaching. No. He was at a crossroads, and whichever road he chose would ruin someone's life. All right, there's got to be, somebody else has got to be able to make these sentence starters. So I went to another website, and I hit generate a sentence, and this is what it said. Just as the quicksand was pulling him under. How prophetic. I need to quit messing around and write this person their reply. They are waiting. But first, I looked at the clock. It's time for sleep. Restless night's sleep. And then a wonderful day of creating young minds at Westfield Academy and Central School. At about 3:15, when the day was done, I sat down at my computer again. And I started to type. And I said, I got to stop messing around. I got to get off the ground. I got to get on the horse. I got to hit the accelerator. I got to bite the bullet. I got to grease the wheels. I got to get down to brass tacks. I got to pay the piper. I got to grit my teeth. I got to get back to square one. I'm between a rock and a hard place. I wonder how many idioms I can think of. I bet you Google knows thousands. Wait. I'm regressing. I got to get started. Finally, you're thinking, he's going to share the stupid 700 reply that have impressed the grant evaluators so much they wanted to add it on the website and share it with future participants. Well, not yet. I had an anthropology professor who once said to me, context is infinite in all directions. And I need to give this problem some context, otherwise I wasted a lot of money on that grad course. I teach at Westfield Academy and Central School, which is in Chautauqua County. They like to call it at the grant, the little school that could. I teach all the Science 8, functional anatomy of the limbs, zoology and animal behavior, biotechnology techniques, a dual credit intro to biology class. I have a lunch duty. I have a study hall. I drive the bus. No, I do it all. And the impressive thing about that little school is that we offer 7 science electives in addition to the 4 Regents sciences. And also, in that little school, are 672 students K through 12. The average class size in the secondary school is 56. The average class size in the elementary is 49. My county is predicted to lose another 8,000 residents by the time I retire, and only about a dozen will name me as the reason. This also shows the drop-off in school-age children in my county up to the year 2040. This shows the drop-off in the population of Chautauqua County since I returned to the county in 1995. Right now, I want you to turn to the person on your left and on the Jim Gaffigan whisper, please say to them, why is he telling me this? What does this have to do with his reply? Well, in the spring of 2008, there was a huge decrease in what I like to call hope. And I thought, is it due to this population decline? Finnegan Scott Reynolds was the last baby born at Westfield Memorial Hospital. Soon the hospital would just be an emergency department with certain outpatient services. Nationally, if you remember 2008, a lot of homeowners were on the verge of foreclosure. And in Chautauqua County, unemployment was about to peak in 8.8% in March of the next year. So was it the lack of jobs in that season? Don't ask me why. No one quite knows the reason. Well, I found the answer. Actually, I went looking for the answer. Found it in the Department of Biotechnical and Clinical Laboratory Sciences Summer Training for Teachers at the University of Buffalo. It introduced me to all the wonderful careers in biotechnology and biomedical in good old Western New York. And my crazy plan was simple. If I could connect my students to those careers, maybe, just maybe I could turn despair into hope. The class had these 5 big units. I brought them back to Westfield and created this course called Biotechnology Techniques. The very first year, I had 12 students. The next year, I had 35. Gene annotation was added in the spring of 2010. And when those students got to their senior year, 5 of them declared a biotechnology major. In that senior class, 2/3 of them, 66%, declared a STEM major in college. And everything possible that could go wrong has gone wrong. We had computers that would freeze, computers that would reboot, computers that couldn't connect to the internet, that we would save these huge modules and then come back later and they'd be gone. And yet the students would just start over and we'd finish. Last year I tried this crazy thing that they did a full gene annotation for a bacteria and then they started a second one for a suspected Sasquatch gene. And, that's a eukaryote, so it uses slightly different techniques. And they still finished. So that probably brings me back to this question, how do you get students to do what they don't want to do? And my reply, here it is. You can do it if you put your mind to it 47 times. Thank you, good night. Okay, just kidding. This is my real reply. Greetings. Listen to your mentors. I had 2 amazing mentors when I first started teaching. They taught me these amazing things. When you're walking the hallways while class is going on, you run into a student in your locker, you greet them by his or her first name, you invest in them, they invest in you. They told me for 180 days of school, you are the embodiment of science. For heaven's sakes, be contagious. In 8th grade, he said, you are the last great chance to sell them science. When they do their 4-year plan in February of their 8th grade, whether or not science is on that 4-year plan or how much science really depends on you. And they also, this very sobering fact, they said school will start the fall after you retire as if you were never there. He said, leave your legacy in your students. And another big thing, it's not about you and it's never going to be about you. All right, have an attitude of service and do what needs to be done. Yeah. Create a teaching persona. I have found out that students are never absent if they're never really quite sure what you're going to do. I have sung every word of a 75-minute block lesson. I painted myself silver and I went to the prom because it was a Wizard of Oz themed prom. I did a tap dance at 8th grade celebration. That one picture, I also did a swing dance. I pretend that I just think of demos. I run to the back of my room, I start digging through drawers and pulling things out. I go up, I do the demo, I put everything away, and then the next class I pretend like I thought of it all over again. And you get awesome give and walk. All right. Go out and buy these 2 books by Kagan on T-building and class building. And spend some good old time just bonding. Students need to know it's not just them against the material, but it's actually us against the material. And they're more likely to step into unknown territory if they think that they matter. Create the attitude. Post it and say it loud and say it often. We do not surrender. This victory will only lead to the next victory. If we quit now, it's just going to make it easier to quit the next time there's a challenge, right? And we have a motto in 2016. They chose grit, zest, and self-control, and I had no idea who Angela Duckworth was, and they picked grit. Last year, they picked importunity, which I thought was a little weird. They said, you wait for opportunity to knock, but with importunity, you do the knocking, right? It is a plea. Teach me and teach me well. Communicate that this is real science. This is not cookbook science that we do with gene annotation where you get the same answer every year. You don't know, and I don't know how this is all going to turn out. For example, you may be the first human being to look at this sequence, and your students can't ask you, is this right? They need to tell you why they think it's right. And science is a process. The way we teach in New York State, it's like science is memorizing a body of facts, right? But remind them that science actually begins and ends with an open-ended question like, how does the organism use this protein? Science is a tapestry. For heaven's sakes, if you pull out one thread, the whole thing unravels. And remind your students that they are sewing in their thread. You don't know, and I don't know, nobody knows how that's going to inspire someone to take the next step and the next step and the next step. For example, somebody took the gene for asparaginase from E. coli and used it to make the leukemic cancer drug Elspar. Science takes patience. For heaven's sakes, very rarely is science a great leap. Most of the time, it's a tiny step on a great journey, and your students are taking their tiny step. For example, in 1978, this horse jaw was found in the Bluefish Mountains in the Yukon by an archaeologist. And he determined that those scratch marks right there were made by human beings with stone tools 24,000 years ago. This would push the arrival of humans in North America back 10,000 years. And people forgot about it for 40 years. In 2017, earlier this year, 2 Canadian archaeologists looked at it and decided he was right. There's patience, 40 years. Always point to the future. I have found out that doing this original research, preparing the poster, and presenting the poster seems to open up the future for my students. For example, here's my buddy Alec. He was part of the first group in 2010. He's now a PhD student at Mount Sinai, and he's actually studied biotechnology in Germany. And he was interviewed by our local newspaper, and he blamed me and my stupid course for his whole career path. He was going to be a sheep farmer. So that brings me, I hope this helps. Let me know if there's any more I can do for you. Thank you, Lon Knappenberger, Master Teacher, Grant Consultant. Many times TED-style talks end with an inspirational quote. And I'd like to use this one from Neil deGrasse Tyson. How did you get my email? I'm not helping you with any stupid reply, and I'm marking you as spam, but it doesn't seem appropriate. Instead, I'm going to use this one from some master teacher from Westfield. Oh, I just spoke her. Okay. Writing for SUNY Teacher Leadership Tag. It says, did you see on the news about the passenger that was yanked out of his airline seat and dragged down the aisle? It's easy to blame faceless corporations. What if one person on that plane had said, here, take my seat, just take my seat? Sometimes it reminds me of education, where it feels like our students they feel like they're being drugged towards some uncertain future. What if we had the confidence, and what if we had the pride in our profession to better offer our students a seat at some future table of prosperity? And I think that really gets to the heart of what I'm trying to say in this incredibly long talk, is that if students feel like that we're invested in some future version of them, they'll do what they do not want to do. Thank you.